Hi guys, I'm your host Nathaniel Shook for The Blitz, and I'm so glad you're tuning in to get more information about the Masters Battle League, and more importantly, the Masters Battle League draft analysis. We already went over the Kanto Conference's draft analysis. Honestly, seeing some great teams, and probably one of the better ones in Cinnabar, all the way to the worst one in Pewter Cities. And we're just kind of looking into what Johto. Can Johto match or be better than the Kanto Conference, or can they be worse than Kanto? We have a wide variety of rookies and veterans in the Johto Conference that I'm really looking forward to, and a couple of surprisingly good and surprisingly horrible picks for each side, and I cannot wait to get right into the business with you. Guys, like always, I want to thank you for tuning in. And as kind of a summary of the last time, like I said before, we talked about the draft analysis from Kanto, but the NBL has now gone from 10 teams to 12 teams, breaking instead of East and West just for the Kanto region. We're now at the Johto Conference and the Kanto Conference. And today we're going to be going over the Johto Conference, and I'm so excited. So for our very first draft analysis, to bust the doors wide open, we are going with Azalea. I'm not good at pronouncing that, but it's a new team added to the NBL with a brand new coach too. So if you all remember from the last video, we had Pewter City with a new coach in Lex Richards. Well, Brandon Richards is in the house on the opposite side coaching this team. The very first time he's ever been in league format, very first time he's ever played Pokemon competitively. So this is by far the most rookie, the most green coach I've ever seen in the history of the NBL. And I gotta be honest with you, not a bad draft. Not a good one either. And that's what we're gonna start today. His first couple picks are fire. They're so good. And you can see with Brandon, he focused on main core setups from the get-go for the most part. His first pick was Hydreigon. Now, the reason why, and we talked about this a little bit afterwards, is that he picked Hydreigon mainly for the fact that it's an all-around mod, can be utilized in a defensive setting or an offensive setting as a sweeper, and it has good type coverage for its moves. There is a definite weakness in the fact that it's Dark and Dragon, so fairy types are going to OHKO this thing left and right. So he's got to be careful about how he utilizes it, but he's got good switch initiative. He's got great power and decent speed with Hydreigon. I looked for him for this Pokemon to be the top used Pokemon on this team, as it should, and maybe a potential kill leader in the conference. He just has to utilize it right. Next pick after that, he went for the Steel type, right? So he was the first pick in the draft, all the way down the bottom. So still an interesting first pick, but I understand given his rookie kind of setting. He picks up Bisharp. Bisharp's a great Sucker Punch, Taunter, knockoff guy. Really bulky and has a massive attack stat. This is a great pickup for someone who needs to kind of who needs to get the one up on someone who doesn't know how to counteract some sweepers and can Sucker Punch trap them into a situation or debuff them with knockoff. The issue that we're seeing already, and I think it's very similar to that of Lex with Pewter City, is the typing issues is going to be a thing, right? So Dark Dragon has the Dark type, then you have Bisharp with the Dark type. It's not Dark and Dragon like you're seeing on your screen, it's Dark and Steel. And so already fighting types look to be a very strong typing against this team, which again Lex has a lot of. And so he kind of saw this going because Lex was talking in the actual draft about counteracting Brandon. And so this is where you start seeing Brandon get played by other people within the draft. So he didn't really focus too much on the team until like around. He cared about the team the first time. I think it's when he started shifting his mentality, like I got to beat this person, around the 4th and 5th pick. Because he picked up Gyarados 3rd round, which is a great Moxie or Intimidate Mon. That Gyarados is a premier sweeper. And when I mean premier, I mean I've been trying to pick him up off a trade so much. Gyarados, honestly, is one of the scariest Pokemon in this league. And if utilized correctly, you're looking at a Hydreigon Gyarados setup where these guys will run with a win week to week. And so if he's playing it smart and utilizing those Pokemon effectively, look for Gyarados and Hydreigon to be a big staples to his team. However, when you look at pick number 4 all the way through 9, it gets a little weird. Inteleon is fantastic for his speed and some moves. However, he's not the premier water type like Gyarados is. Inteleon's great, and he's a good sweeper. But there was other things he could have drafted before he picked up Inteleon. A case in point, Inteleon probably wouldn't got picked up until the 6th or 7th round. Maybe 5th? I don't know. The issue is he's not a 4th round draft pick. And he picks Inteleon, and then to kind of balance out the water issue, he picks Flareon. Now, keep in mind, at this time, Lex and a couple other teams have already picked the fire types in their top 4 picks, but he picks up Flareon, which is a great physical mon, okay with speed. And so with Flare Blitz added on to this, Flareon is something you should watch out for, but he's not the biggest threat in the world. And so when you draft Flareon, you're like, okay, whoa, this is kind of a weird draft. Then to counteract those picks, he picks up Roserade, which I'm okay with. I think he's a big time sleeper mon that can carry a team. But now you can start to see, he picked up his water, fire, grass core. So he did pick up a core. And that's really important to understand, is that he's still thinking about the team, but his primary focus is to outdo Pewter City as a rookie and honestly against other rookie teams. He then goes on with Octillery, which we can utilize Sniper. I believe he has Sniper. I'm not sure. I know Inteleon does, but it might be a hidden ability, so it might not be accessible with this meta right currently. But Octillery is there. Like, okay, yeah, I can see that. Then he picks up Raichu, which I get. It's a fast mon. It's an electric type that he didn't have before. And so you can use Raichu in a lot of different ways. It's just a weird one. I probably personally would have gone either, not Vikavolt, I would have gone, I can't think of its name, Galvantula, or I probably would have gone Manectric for just Volt Switch and other type, like move type coveraging. So again, interesting pick. He can still drop Raichu, but Raichu is one of the faster mons in the league, so it could potentially be better for him. And then lastly, Berserker, which is a steel type, which on paper doesn't seem that good, but Berserker does have a lot of sets that he can utilize that will make Berserker incredibly useful for his team, buff him out a little bit, and have great damage output. But as we see here, it's a D rating. His fighting weakness. He's got an electric weakness with a bunch of water types and things that can just get wrecked by it. But on the flip side, he has a great starting 3 Pokemon. So out of the entire Johto conference, already they're looking to have a better draft setup than, say, a Corbin or even Pewter City by a long shot. I mean, Azalea Town is in a setting where if they make some good modifications on the waiver side of things with free agency, and they play their mons right, they could be a dark horse or at least a spoiler later on. I don't see them making playoffs. They have a good shot at maybe wild card, but he's got to go against some of these other great teams, which we'll get into. After this team is Violet City, and my boy Jared, going to be a rookie. Violet City, again, a new team. All these Johto teams are new, but he is a rookie coach. And Jared is super psyched for this. And honestly, I look forward to what he's going to do. His team's not that bad, except for the top 3 picks. What the heck were you doing with a Dusknoir number 1 pick? Now he was the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and there are a lot of other mons that he could have picked up here. I know Hydreigon went bye-bye, but here's Dusknoir, which he could have got like at round 4 or round 6. Now, granted, he picked up great mons in those 2 rounds, but he had the ability to do draft Dragapult, Darmanitan, Corviknight. Like, there's a multitude of other mons he could have do that could have helped this team out. But he picks Dusknoir round 1. I do like the Toxtricity pick on round 2 with Throat Spray and the special attack stat that's tied to that mon. Like, this is going to be a dangerous team, and he's going to be a dangerous sweeper, what Toxtricity is. But as you can already see, the speed tier of these top 4 picks are going to be real slow. And then you have Colossal, which is downright slow. And the typing of Rock and Fire isn't the most premier typing, mainly because of the amount of weaknesses that are tied to it with Ground type. So it allows teams with even minor ground type Pokemon or ground coverage to really lay into this team, and Oko Toxtricity because he's weak to ground, and Colossal. And so already we see this issue. Well, we're not sure how he's going to really deal with that ground weakness. He did draft, though, Crawdon. And Crawdon is very, very terrifying if you know how to use him, right? You can opt into D-Dance, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if you have the ability to Sucker Punch, but you do have Aqua Jet, so you have priority. So again, there's a lot of priority we see here with Crawdon, and if you switch over to Lucario with Mach Punch and Aura Sphere, like or Vacuum Wave, sorry, there's a lot of things that he can do, or even Bullet Punch, where he can throw out priority and be able to get the one-up on other teams that don't have that type of coverage. And so even though the Crawdon's a little slow, it can turn into something very fast and can be a hard-hitting sweeper, along with Lucario being a mixed sweeper in both the physical and special side. Salazzle's a great pickup for the fire typing and to poison anything he wants. This thing's ability can poison steel types and any other types like poison because of his ability, which I think is corrosion, right? So utilizing that, you can slowly wear down his team. Dusknoir now looks kind of intriguing at this point, given that pickup, right? And then you add Rabombi, which no one was thinking about, and he picked it up at 7th round, has access to Sticky Web, has a fairy typing to it, and is insanely fast. You talk about hazard setup, Rabombi is the one. And if you add Sticky Webs to it, it makes Crawdon and Toxtricity and Lucario, and even Salazzle, that much more scarier. And if we go down, even though that Quagsire picks a huge one, you'll get Flygon with that Sticky Web support in Rabombi. Oh my gosh, you have a Steel Dragon Fairy typing on the bottom half that looks kind of intimidating. That looks kind of scary. And even looking at it, you're like, well, hey, that's pretty good. The issue is these are low-tiered Mons, and so we're not sure how they're really going to work with the metagame with some of these stronger Pokemon, especially in the Johto Conference, which they do have a lot of strong Mons. And so we see that there's a mid-level speed tier with the possibility of getting higher thanks to some good Sticky Web and hazard play. They have great hazard control, though, even with that, with Flygon setting up rocks and other stuff, and with corrosion, toxics, and other stuff. So they do have hazard control, they do have status control, and they do have decent type coveraging, especially after that 3rd round pick. They have the ability to switch into a multitude of different things. So it's a C, maybe even C+, right? Violet City is set up to be in a really prime position, and if Jared can get everything in order and know how to utilize his team, breed his Pokemon the way he needs to be, make sure those IVs and EVs are in check, I'm a little frightened by this, right? Because he even has Rapid Spin Blocker in Dusknoir. Like, this team is scary. So, again, I would look to see Violet City, see what they're able to do. And heck, man, if you're a part of that Archetypes Collide fam, if you're all about that AC fam, that AC gang, pick up Jared, root for him. The rookie is looking forward to a great showing in the second season of the NBL. And honestly, I'm really happy and excited for what Jared's going to do. I think he's one of the biggest dark horses in the Johto Conference, and hopefully he makes a great push for wild card and even playoffs. He might even make playoffs, and so I'm looking forward greatly to what Violet City is able to do. Next is Olivine FC, baby, with a new rookie coach in Michael Giuliano. This is originally going to be James Giles' team, who was the second place finisher in the NBL inaugural season, behind the team of Cerulean City Jim, right? So he drops it. Michael Giuliano comes in at the last minute to kind of take on Olivine FC. He's a rookie, but he has been battling on Showdown quite a bit, and it was being worked on by and was getting practiced by and worked on with Eric Pastor. So you'll see a lot of Eric Pastor's kind of feel and touch with Olivine FC's draft setup. Mainly because you can see a little bit, he was helping him a little bit, gave him some pointers going into the draft. You can see a little bit of flair and a little bit of flavor in there. First round, he picked Rotom Heat, and this is mainly because he picked up Rotom Heat because of the lack of fire types from everyone else. Again, Cinderace was already picked up. You have 3 to 4 fire types already gone halfway through the draft here. And so he picked up Rotom Heat, which is a great pickup, right? It has Levitate, the ability to kind of haze in and out. People. Volt Switch with Switch Initiative, he can look at Thunder Wave and Burn, making his team a little bit more tanky on the physical side. And then he picks up a beautiful pick in Tyranitar. One of my favorite pickups. Run Assault Vest. Shout out to Eric Pastor, who said I was going to say Assault Vest. Assault Vest, that thing, right? Great tanky mon, very scary damage output, long survivability. And then you add Sylveon, which is a great fairy core for wish passing and a bunch of other stuff with sustainability. So already we see that his team has good switch initiative. They have good sustainability for the most part, right? And then this is where it starts to ramp up. And I don't think Michael understood the ramifications of what he's doing, because his team on paper is like, it's okay. But when you start looking into the numbers, when you start looking at a lot of the other Pokemon, this team is scary. This team is scary. Barraskewda Water type, one of the fastest sweepers in the game. It can hit you so fast and so hard. It gets a little scary. And then you have Durant, which I don't even think he realizes can use first impression. Durant is disgusting. With Hustle? Oh my gosh, dude. Durant is a scary steel type, and one of which I don't want to mess with, and he's super fast as well. Then you flip over to Ninetales to then kind of counteract a lot of the weather teams and throwing out Drought there, so it shuts down a rain team, which we'll discuss. Actually, we already discussed that. It shuts down the rain team with Eric Dressler and a couple other teams that are utilizing sand, right? You can throw up Tyranitar, but you can just throw out Ninetales. Start loading up and blasting people with Fire Blast or other fire moves. Overheat, you name it, possible Solar Beam. Ninetales is a great pickup, and on top of that, it's fast. It's fast. So Barraskewda, Durant, Ninetales already getting up, already at high speeds. Then you add Noivern, Jolteon, and Frostlass. Potentially one of the fastest teams in this league because of that pickup. Noivern being almost, I think he's the second or third fastest in the league here, is insane. It's insane. You add Jolteon with Volt Absorb, which checks a couple other teams who have that electric switch in with Volt Switch, and just blocks it. And then you have Frostlass, which you can run Destiny Bond and run Spikes. This team is set for a good move initiative, right? Has great speed tiers and has decent team synergy that can switch around and do really cool stuff. The issue is it relies too heavily on the tanks in Sylveon, Tyranitar, and even Rotom Heat if you can put him in that put him in that category. So you potentially have 3 tanks potentially to then have Tyranitar and just Sylveon. And so if he utilizes the hazards correctly, utilizes status inflictors like Burn and Thunder Wave, honestly, this team could be really good and really set up to really kind of tank out. I have some Pokemon who can tank those physical shots and be able to tank them a little bit better. So this team's overall a B. It's a hyper-aggressive team. And if you ask me, I love hyper-aggressive play. And if you look at the differences between Kanto Conference and the Johto Conference, is that aggressive play. Johto Conference is already set up to be hyper-aggressive attackers, both on the special and physical side. And again, if we're looking at this from a Violet City, Olivine FC situation here, it's going to be really interesting to have these 2 rookie coaches go at it. I think Jared's coverage is really good, and I think he's got a lot of abilities to kind of work with hazards far more than Olivine. On the flip side, Olivine has a little bit more experience in the battling with showdown practice with Eric Pastor, and also I think he's more used to his team after practicing. The issue is if Violet City can show up and kind of gun it, this is going to be a interesting in-conference rivalry between Violet City and Olivine, one of which I am super excited to see. And honestly, even though Violet City's draft rating was a C and Olivine's a B, you could have them in this. You could flip-flop them a little bit. I just give my team edge more to Olivine, but hey, I'll make a case for Violet City. So going on to the next team, it's Ecruteak City. It's your boy. Ecruteak City is a new team in the MBL for the Johto Conference. Originally, I was the coach for Saffron City, in which we went 10-2. I finished 5th in the league overall, lost to, I believe it was James Giles right before conference. I was the 1 seed, unfortunately, and I lost. So that was kind of that kind of sucked. But I'm moving over to Ecruteak City and hopefully to start new in the Johto Conference. And we're going to be as unbiased as possible. Galarian Darmanitan was okayed and voted on by our entire league, and it was agreed upon that he would be a part of it, especially if you have Dracovish and other teams, other mons similar to Darmanitan. But Darmanitan objectively okay, is on a tier of its own and was banned in Ubers before we started the draft. It was already part of the draft list prior to it being banned. However, now we started seeing the ramifications of it. So what was interesting is Darmanitan fell so low in the draft, mainly because people didn't like the type, its typing, which is just pure ice type. Though you could run it Zen mode with fire type, the issue isn't that, it's ability in guerrilla tactics. So again, when we look at this team, the first three, you can already get a picture of what I want to do, what Ecruteak's going to do, which is going to be a hyper-offensive and aggressive team, right? Galarian Darmanitan, number one. Arguably the best all-out attacker in the entire league with little to no answers to in regards to, can a team cover this? Can it dedicate 1 or 2 months? Because the reality is, if he has a clean switch in, Darmanitan does, and he's choice scarfed or is faster in speed, it is going to take out something, right? It is going to kill one of your mons upon switch in or something else. If you make a misplay against Darmanitan, it is going to be a bad time. And then we have Cinderace, and this is where you kind of got the feel for like, okay, this is what Ecruteak's going for. Cinderace has a move called Court Change. It doesn't, and so any hazards on Ecruteak's side of the field, say that the opponent set up Stealth Rock, Spikes, and so much more, Sticky Webs. If you run heavy-duty boots with Cinderace, you drop him in, he does Court Change, and he flips the side of the field. So any hazards were on my side, now are on the opponent's side. So already you can see with Blackthorn City, they're not in the hazard game play. They don't care about hazards, and they're going to utilize Cinderace as more of a hazard control mon rather than an actual sweeper, right? So we see that, and we're like, oh, okay, this is where it's going. Because with your third pick, you run Dracozolt, which is like a discount Dracovish that runs Hustle. So his damage output could be tenfold that of Dracovish and can do similar things to that of Darmanitan with coveraging, with Bolt Beak, Earthquake, Dragon Claw, and so much more that people haven't looked into Dracovish about, and can sweep teams if you just boost up its speed. Now, if you're looking here, like, okay, well, speed's good. I'm not really sure. Then you have Rotomo. Levitate, a little more on the tanky side. You can run them offensively or defensively. So again, we're looking at a lot of really speedy mons that have the potential to sweep and kind of phase people out. Rotomo's ability to use the damage output with Leaf Storm and then be able to Volt Switch for Switch Initiative or run T-Wave or Burn to help out physically. Rotomo almost seems very a primary need for this team. Then if you look at the next 5 picks in Gengar, one of the fastest special attackers in the league, and a great special sweeper. And then you have Gardevoir with Trace that can be switched into a specially defensive mon to tank special shots, or run it as a sweeper with Trace. Like the possibilities are endless with this team, and so from pick 1 to 6, there is an insane amount of dedication to the offensive game plan. Then you have Orbeetle, which is great because now you have Sticky Webs to drop people's speeds, opponent speeds, to make sure Galarian, Darmanitan, Dracozolt, Gengar, and Cinderace outspeed their opponent, right? To give them that extra edge so that they're able to effectively cause mass damage to other opponents. Then you have Ice Cube and Lapras. This is where it gets a little weird. Ice Cube's a niche physical sweeper. You can belly drum, Ice Face, but you have to hit it physically, right? So if you hit it with a special move, it isn't going to do anything. It's not. And so Ice Cube was kind of a, hey, tip the hat off, like, I'm able to set up more, yay. And so it's a questionable pick at number 8. I understand the pick because you have to focus on it, but it's a questionable. And then you have Lapras as your primary tank. You see, Blackthorn City has great speed tiers. They have great damage output, but there are no tanks at all. There's no tanks, which means there's no survivability. There's no sustainability. And on top of that, they're almost all physically oriented, right? With the exception of Gengar and Gardevoir. Because your Orbeetle doesn't have enough damage output. He can if you work with it, but it doesn't have enough damage output to be considered a sweeper. You can run Body Press, but again, that's physical. And so we see a lot of what Blackthorn has is meant for just, I'm going to be aggressive, and I'm going to go full on at you. And they haven't really considered any type of decent hazard play, decent status inflicting mons, and they haven't really thought about taking shots. And so Blackthorn City gets a B. It's honestly one of my worst drafts, but also one of the best ones. right, that I've done in recent years, because it's a very highly aggressive team setup, but has a great fall. It's a high risk, high reward team, and we're going to see. And again, it keeps perpetuating this. Johto Conference has the most offensive teams in the league, and I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen. But Olivine, Ecruteak, and Violet City, they're all going to be in a battle for that wild card stuff. The only thing going for Ecruteak is that Nathaniel Shook has experience from last season, is decent, finished top 5, could have finished higher if he would have focused in on some of these tropes with other teams. So it's going to be interesting what happens. I don't know. I would give the edge to our next team, which is Blackthorn City. It's a new one. Last year, the coach is Cheyenne Dang. Props to Cheyenne. She got married recently. She's babe, right? She's awesome. Okay. Cheyenne was the coach of Viridian City, but now takes a new shot at redemption with Blackthorn City, which honestly my favorite logo of the entirety of the league. And she finished 7th last time with Viridian City, but her draft is fantastic. Looking at it, I'm like, man. But you look at it, it's insane. Dragapult, pick 1. Woo! The fastest mon in the league. Amazing. Rotom Wash can be special, can be a wall, can even be a defensive wall or a special wall. Insane. Then Togekiss on top of that with a Mimikyu pick. So her 1 through 4 are insane. The team synergy, the ability to work around stuff, the priority and switch initiative, along with hazard control, is insane. Now, the only issue is Gigalith will be your stealth rocker. Yeah, it's a pure rock type. That's a problem. But Golisopod's a great pick right after the 5th one with first impression. Oh my gosh. Golisopod is going to be scary, and I'm looking forward to how she's going to utilize it. Now, the issue here, and this is the reason why bench depth with her team is kind of iffy. Shuckle is very much a hazard mon. It's a very good hazard mon, but it only has that one thing, and you can kind of play around it a little bit. And so she's got to be careful how she utilizes Shuckle, because that's one spot that could have been for someone else that could have been better and more utilized. I still think Shuckle's a great pick. In fact, I think it adds to her ability to control hazards. It's phenomenal. Shiftry, though, got good speed. It's a dark type, can rock knockoff. I believe it has Sucker Punch, so it has that priority again. And then Morpeko is also quick. So she has really good stuff. The issue is a lot of these Benchmon are either slow or very frail, with the exception of being Shuckle, which I think has better use than all of them here. Because even though Golisopod has first impression, its speed is not going to be good. And so if you're going up against the rest of the Johto Conference, which has already that speed in place, Golisopod's going to have a one shot with first impression, and then he's got to pray that they don't have another move that can take it out in the next shot. So it's a big-time mon. It's a high-risk, high-reward mon, but it's not as premier as some of the other ones. And so, again, Blackthorn, though, is incredibly set for a playoff run. And honestly, I think they beat Ecruteak. I think they're a better team than Ecruteak. I think their draft is better than most things. It just comes down to whether Cheyenne can breed those mons well and do it well and get those movesets up into a place where they can do mass damage. Honestly, Dragapult, Rotom Wash, Togekiss already is super scary. And if you're not careful, you got a Mimikyu that will be +2 or +4. Like, it's massive. And so I think Blackthorn isn't only a dark horse for the 1 seed in Johto, but I think has punched their ticket in for the playoffs. I really believe that, given their team setup, and they can really hit it home. Look at Blackthorn to be Cheyenne's redemption here after the first season. I honestly don't see what's holding them back. The speed is great. The priority is right. The hazard control is great. And there's priority in everything. It's just maybe she picks up some stuff later down in waivers and stuff. Who knows? But I think they get an A in my book. And they're the best that I've seen, one of the best drafts I've seen in this. And again, it's way better than some of the A's we've seen on the Kanto Conference side. Lastly, I cannot believe I'm saying this for last because he's going to eat it up. It's Goldenrod FC. Coach is Eric Pastor. Eric Pastor previously was on Fuchsia City. Didn't finish third, finished 4th. Essentially, it's a tie for 3rd. But he was one of these most dominant teams in the first season of the NBL. And it's not going to stop from there. You got a Clefable, Ferrothorn, Como-O core. Arguably the best core in the actual league. Okay? You have Como that has an omni-boosting move, right? That can boost every stat for, I think, a third of HP. But that doesn't matter if you run Citrus Berry. If you run anything, right? It doesn't matter the item. I'll take the 3/4 HP loss if it means that I'm going to dish out so much more damage. He has speed up, I believe, 70 or anywhere from 70 to 80. Hey, which is not bad if everything else is above 100. Either 100 or above. Como-O is so scary. The fact that it even dropped to the third round is beyond me. I think it's one of the best top three picks from a team in a long while. Then you have Vaporeon, which shuts down Draco Vision within the conference with Water Absorb, has massive tank potential, Wish, passing, and a bunch of other stuff. Dude, this thing is crazy. You know, there are some questionable pickups, like with Delmise, though I understand it because it's a grass type. Also Ghost type, so blocks Rapid Spin, has some great moves, and the ability for Anchor Shot is insane. And so, I mean, it's also a fairy counter. It's got great mix-up potential. Rhyperior, great tank, can set up a lot of other different things along with Stealth Rock. You can even run Weakness Policy, Rock Polish. Like, Rhyperior is scary. You run that with Rock Blast, hit 5 times. Like, this thing is great. It's a great mod. It's a little questionable on kind of its uses within the team, with team synergy, but for all intents and purposes, Rhyperior is good. But I want to really point out this right here. Heliolisk, at first glance, like, that's a stupid pickup. It's not, though. Dry Skin, he's immune to water type. And if you don't run it that way, he can literally take electric shots and be fine. He's a block to ghost types with the normal typing, and there's so much more that Heliolisk can do, along with his insane speed stat. This mon is a great low value pick. I mean, I believe he will use it for a multitude of different teams, at least 3/4 of the teams that he'll go up against in the season. Weavile was a iffy pick. It does not have Pursuit. It does not have Sucker Punch. It has good, semi-good damage output, but usually is overshadowed by a multitude of other ice Pokemon, especially Ice Q. Like, if you had to compare the two, I pick Ice Q over Weavile. Weavile is scary when it wants to be or when it's used correctly. I just don't think it was a good pickup. It's great with speed, can block pranksters, but its frailty is second to none. And I don't know. I don't know what Eric's going to use. I do know Eric is looking to see if he can give away Weavile or pick up someone from free agency. So we'll see what he does there. And then lastly, Braviary, superpower, Brave Bird. Braviary is going to be good. He's used it before in previous ones and Showdown. And I'm looking to see Goldenrod do just as well. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be scary. And you know what? Goldenrod is the favorite on the Johto Conference to get the first seed in the Johto Conference. I don't know if he'll get the number 1 seed overall going to playoffs, but he's definitely in the consideration. I believe Goldenrod and Cinnabar, and along with Palatown squeezing in, I think have the most potential to get the 1 seed overall, with Blackthorn and Eckertique falling close behind. I'll give the edge to Blackthorn given its team setup, but it just depends on how each team plays. And yeah, that's the Johto Conference in and of itself. Since this is the last draft analysis video, this is where you get the best overall draft grade. And what team has the best overall draft grade, you ask? Easy money. It is Cinnabar Island FC. Philip Shook put great time and effort into it. Whether he planned it or not, his team is the best. He has the best overall depth. I think the team in and of itself is set up to be immensely scary and can be utilized in a multitude of different ways. Again, I love the back 5 and Snorlax, Haxorus, Sprong, Zong, Whimsicott, Espeon. A lot of untapped potential with these mods that I think people don't even realize what's going to happen with them. And then their first 4 with Aegislash, Toxapex, Grimmstyle, Hawlucha is great. I think Philip Shook has constructed a great team, and I think he'll be honestly the favorite for the entire league. So good on Cinnabar Island FC. And guys, that does it for the Blitz. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the pitch as our first matches start May 24th. And I can't wait. You'll be getting some coverage from multiple different teams. Our first week's coverage is going to be with Blackthorn City. Me, your boy Nate, starting off the season right, and potentially other other teams on our own show, which is going to be reminiscent of ESPN's Hard Knocks. And I cannot wait to show you guys this coverage. And we hope you all tune in for the Masters Battle League Season 2. I'll see you guys then.